we discussed the topics related to human reproductive system in last class. In the part of that, we discussed about male reproductive system. In the male reproductive system, what are the various structures present and the respective anatomy and physiology we are discussing. In the part of that, I gave you about the primary sex organs or gonads in last class. The primary sex organs or gonads we discussed in last class. As I gave you, the gonads in male reproductive system are the primary sex organs in male reproductive system are a pair of testes, and the location of testes, structure of testes, external morphology of testes, and transverse section of this transverse section of once again. Okay. The transverse section of seminiferous tubules that all we discussed in last class. Now we have to continue the remaining structures in male reproductive system of human being. In the process of that, first we will discuss about the secondary sex organs. Secondary sex organs. Secondary sex organs are accessory sex organs. In this class, we'll start our class with the secondary sex organs or the accessory sex organs. Secondary sex organs or accessory sex organs. Already I gave you the definition for this. What is a secondary sex organ or accessory sex organ? The reproductive organs which are not involved in the production of gametes and also in the secretion of reproductive hormones are secondary sex organs or accessory sex organs. The reproductive organs which are not involved in the production of gametes and also in the secretion of reproductive hormones, but these are essential for the transport of gametes, storage of gametes, and also for the nourishment of gametes. So we will discuss about that. As I gave you already, there are two types of secondary sex organs or accessory sex organs in human reproductive system. What are that two types of secondary sex organs or accessory sex organs in male reproductive system? One is accessory ducts, another one is accessory glands. Accessory ducts and accessory glands are two type of secondary sex organs. Secondary sex organs of two types: accessory ducts and accessory glands. Already I told you, accessory ducts are mainly involved in the transport, storage of spermatozoa. But accessory glands secrete some fluids which are essential for the nourishment of spermatozoa outside the body of male human being. That means in the female genital tract, and also that will maintain a required pH, which is essential for the survival of spermatozoa in female reproductive tract. Okay. So first we will discuss about accessory ducts, and after that we will go for accessory glands. Already I gave you what are the accessory ducts that are associated in male reproductive system. Rete testis. First one here. Rete testis. Rete testis. Rete testis. Where these rete testes are located? Already you know the tunica albulacea innervated into testes and divide the testes into 250 compartments, which are known as testicular lobules. But there is a single thick vertical septum also formed by the tunica albuginea inside the testis. That is known as mediastinum testis. Mediastinum testis. See, in the mediastinum testis, what will happen? The seminiferous tubules which are present here, already I told you, seminiferous tubules have a closed end at one side, another end has an open end. So like this. See, it is a closed end, it is a open end. The open ends of these seminiferous tubules are fused with each other. The open ends of seminiferous tubules are fused with each other. The open ends of seminiferous tubules are fused with each other. In the mediastinum testis, this fused end of seminiferous tubules form a network of bundles. A network of bundles. In mediastinum testis, the open end of seminiferous tubules form a network of tubules. Will form a network of tubules. This network of tubules is known as rete testis. Rete testis. Once again, I am repeating. At open end, the seminiferous tubules will fuse with each other in mediastinum testis. In mediastinum testis, it will form a network of tubules. A network of tubules. This network of tubules is known as rete testis. Rete testis. So the first accessory ducts which receives spermatozoa from the seminiferous tubules are rete testis. You all know that seminiferous tubules are the sites of production of spermatozoa. Seminiferous tubules are sites of production of spermatozoa. Then how this spermatozoa will release out during the copulation or during the ejaculation? It requires a passage. It requires a path. That path or passage will be created by the accessory ducts. So here, what is rete testis? What is rete testis? A network of bundles formed by the open ends of seminiferous tubules at mediastinum testis. Once again, I am repeating. All of you write down. The network of capillaries, network of bundles or network of tubules. So here, the network of tubules formed by the fusion of open end of seminiferous tubules in mediastinum testis is known as rete testis. Write down the definition, all of you. What is this rete testis? A network of tubules. A network of tubules formed by the fusion of open ends of seminiferous tubules in mediastinum testis. In mediastinum testis. Network of tubules formed by fusion of open ends of seminiferous tubules at mediastinum testis. At mediastinum testis is known as rete testis. What is the role of this rete testis? This simple. Rete testis receives the spermatozoa from the seminiferous tubules. Rete testis receives the spermatozoa from seminiferous tubules. That's the function of rete testis, right? Let's hear about the first accessory duct, rete testis. And after this rete testis, there is, observe here, rete testis opens into a minute tubular structures here again. Minute structures here. These minute structures are vasa afferentia. Vasa afferentia or vas efferens, or we can also call that as a ductus afferentia. ductus efferentia or vasa efferentia. Ductus efferentia or vasa efferentia. So radial testis will open into vasa efferentia. What is the number of vasa efferentia in male reproductive system of human being? Is 10 to 12. So there are 10 to 12 vasa efferentia are associated with the male reproductive system. What is the role of this vasa efferentia? Vasa efferentia receives the spermatozoa from the radial testis and it will transport the spermatozoa to epididymis. So vasa efferentia are minute tubular structures. These are 10 to 12 in number, and this will receive the spermatozoa from the radial testis and transport the spermatozoa to epididymis. Epididymis. So that is the second one, vasa efferentia. So which is the second accessory duct here is vasa efferentia. Remember one more thing here. The inner walls of this vasa efferentia are lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated epithelial tissue. Pseudo-stratified ciliated epithelial tissue. Okay. So internally or the inner wall of this vasa efferentia is lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated epithelial tissue. Pseudo-stratified ciliated epithelial tissue. Okay. So here vasa efferentia are minute tubules that are arises from the radial testis here, and here these are internally lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated epithelial tissue. This receives the spermatozoa from radial testis and transports spermatozoa to epididymis. These are 10 to 12 in number. 10 to 12 in number. Okay, that also we have to keep in your mind. Just remember. So, which is the second accessory duct in male reproductive system? That is vasa efferentia or ductus efferens. Ductus efferens or ductus efferentia. Okay. Remember that. Is it clear? Vasa efferentia is the second accessory duct here. These are the minute tubules. These are 10 to 12 in number, and these are internally lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated epithelial tissue. This receives the spermatozoa from radial testis and transports the spermatozoa, or it will pass the spermatozoa to epididymis. Why it is internally lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated epithelium? The cilia which are present in this tissue are useful to push or to transport the spermatozoa, because while the spermatozoa in radial testis and vasa efferentia that are immotile, that cannot be able to perform its movement or its locomotion. Because of that, the cilia is required. Cilia are required because of the ciliary movements. The spermatozoa will be pushed towards the epididymis. So the spermatozoa are immotile in the radial testis and also in the vasa efferentia. Then how vasa efferentia will transport this immotile spermatozoa to epididymis? For that, there is a pseudo-stratified ciliated epithelial tissue. This ciliary movements will push the spermatozoa towards the epididymis. That you have to remember, right? That is the second one, vasa efferentia completed. What is the number of vasa efferentia in male human being? That is 10 to 12 in number. And after completion of this vasa efferentia, the next and very important accessory duct here, that is epididymis. Epididymis. It is very long, highly coiled structure at posterior end of testis. For example, if it is epididymis, it travels at posterior end of the testis, and here it is highly coiled at posterior end of testis. At posterior end of testis, epididymis is highly coiled. Actually, it is a very long accessory duct. The longest accessory duct in male reproductive system is epididymis. It is about 4 to 6 meters in length. What is the length of epididymis? 4 to 6 meters. So, the epididymis arises from the vasa efferentia and it moves towards the posterior end of the testis. At posterior end, it is highly coiled. It is highly coiled. It is the longest accessory duct in male reproductive system. It is about 4 to 6 meters in length. It is a major or very important accessory duct because the spermatozoa are temporarily stored here. The spermatozoa are temporarily stored. So epididymis. So epididymis stores the spermatozoa. Epididymis stores the spermatozoa that you have to keep in your mind. Epididymis can store the spermatozoa a maximum of 1 month, 25 to 35 days. It can able to store the spermatozoa. So a maximum of around 1 month, epididymis can able to store the spermatozoa. That you have to remember. So epididymis is the longest accessory duct in male reproductive system. This epididymis is highly coiled at posterior end of the testis and it is about 4 to 6 meters in length. What is the main role or main function of epididymis is storage of spermatozoa. The spermatozoa will be stored in the epididymis around 1 month. After 1 month, if that spermatozoa will be not released or not ejaculated, then automatically that will be degenerated here. Okay. So once again, I am repeating: epididymis is the longest accessory duct in male reproductive system, and this epididymis is highly coiled at posterior end. It is about 4 to 6 meters in length in human being. This is the storehouse of the spermatozoa. So spermatozoa will be stored in the epididymis a maximum of 1 month. Okay, that you have to keep in mind. And one more thing here, the epididymis is divided into 3 parts. Epididymis is divided into 3 parts. The first one or anterior most one is caput epididymis, caput epididymis, caput epididymis. The second one is corpus epididymis, and the third one is cauda epididymis. Cauda epididymis. Caput epididymis, corpus epididymis, and cauda epididymis. So there are 3 parts in the epididymis. Observe here, the anterior most part is caput epididymis. The anterior most part which receives the spermatozoa from the vasa efferentia. The anterior part of epididymis is caput epididymis. This caput epididymis receives spermatozoa from vasa efferentia. Right? Next, the main part of this epididymis is corpus epididymis. So corpus epididymis occupies major region in the epididymis. Corpus means body. So the main body of epididymis is corpus epididymis. At last, the posterior or the caudal end. Cauda means tail. You all know that where the tail is located in animals. It is located at posterior end, okay, or a terminal end of the body. Okay, so here chorda epididymis. Observe here, it is the last part. So it is chorda epididymis. Is it clear? Epididymis has three parts. The anterior most part, which receives the spermatozoa from the vasa efferentia, is caput epididymis. And the main part or majority of the region in the epididymis is the carpus epididymis. It is the main site for the storage of spermatozoa. It is the main site for the storage of spermatozoa. And after that, this will opens into the terminal part of epididymis, that is the chorda epididymis. Chorda epididymis will opens into the next accessory duct, that is the vas deferens. Vas deferens. Remember that. Vas deferens. Okay, just remember about the epididymis. Okay, caput is anterior most part. It receives the spermatozoa from vasa efferentia. Carpus is the main body. It occupies majority or major portion of the epididymis. It is the main part for the storage of spermatozoa. And the terminal part or end part of this epididymis is known as chorda epididymis. Chorda epididymis opens into vas deferens or ductus differentia. Vas deferens or ductus differentia. Is it clear about vasa efferentia and epididymis? Which is the storehouse for the spermatozoa, where the spermatozoa can store around 1 month or up to 1 month of time. That is nothing but epididymis. But one thing you have to remember here, when the spermatozoa will enter into the caput epididymis, that are immotile, that cannot able to perform movement or motility or that cannot able to move from one point to another point. But while leaving this epididymis, that immotile spermatozoa will become motile. Immotile spermatozoa will become motile. Motility, you all know that motility is nothing but movement, or just like a locomotion from one point to another point. They can able to move. You all know that the human sperm has a tail which act like a flagellum for the movement of spermatozoa, for the traveling of spermatozoa, that is useful. So here, very important, just remember, while entering into the epididymis, the spermatozoa immotile. While leaving that epididymis, the spermatozoa will become motile. What will happen in the spermatozoa? That will give the property of motility to the spermatozoa in epididymis. What will happen in this epididymis? There are some specialized proteins in the epididymis that will make the immotile spermatozoa will become motile. There are Caspar proteins, important one. Caspar proteins. Caspar proteins. Caspar proteins. Which proteins will make the immotile spermatozoa become motile? That is Caspar proteins. Caspar proteins. Caspar proteins will convert immotile spermatozoa into motile spermatozoa. So inside this epididymis, spermatozoa will interact with the Caspar proteins. Spermatozoa interacts with the Caspar proteins inside the epididymis, then only that will become motile. Because of that, there is no need of cilia inside this epididymis. But if the spermatozoa cannot be ejaculated even after 1 month, what will happen? Up to 1 month, it will able to store the spermatozoa. Even after that 1 month, if there is no storage of there is no ejaculation or release of spermatozoa from epididymis, what will happen? The spermatozoa will that will be degenerated. Spermatozoa will degenerate. Then what happened? What about this degenerated parts of degenerated spermatozoa? Where that will set or how that will be disappear from the epididymis? For that, stereocilia, a modification of membrane of epithelial tissues, stereocilia. So internally, epididymis have like this. These are not cilia, modifications of membrane cilia. Stereocilia is there. This stereocilia are there. You may get doubts. The spermatozoa will not release out from the epididymis. That will be degenerated. This degenerated epithelial tissue, this degenerated spermatozoa will be absorbed by stereocilia, which is a membranous modification of epithelial tissue. Okay, the plasma membrane of epithelial tissue is modified into stereocilia. The degenerated spermatozoa will be absorbed here. Okay, understood? Once again, I am repeating. The inner wall of epididymis is internally lined by a special modification of plasma membrane of epithelial tissue, that is stereocilia. What is the role of the stereocilia? The stereocilia will absorb degenerated spermatozoa. If that are not released even after 1 month from the epididymis, that will be absorbed, that will be degenerated and absorbed by the stereocilia, which is present in the inner wall of this epididymis. So that is clear about the epididymis. So here 3 accessory ducts are completed: rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, which possesses 3 parts: caput, corpus, and cauda epididymis. Okay, epididymis is storehouse of spermatozoa. It will store the spermatozoa up to a maximum of 1 month or 25 to 35 days. And here, when the spermatozoa enters into epididymis, and the spermatozoa are immotile. But while leaving this epididymis, that will become motile. Inside the epididymis, the spermatozoa interact with the Casper proteins that will make this become motile. Okay, so that you have to remember. Right? That's clear. Which is the longest accessory ducts in male reproductive system, that is epididymis. It is about 6 meters, 4 to 6 meters in length. It is about 4 to 6 meters in length. Wait, that's clear. Epididymis is completed. After this epididymis, what's next? So epididymis will move up to here. For example, it is the last part of epididymis. What is the last part of epididymis? That is the cauda epididymis. Cauda epididymis. Then what is the fate of this cauda epididymis? Cauda epididymis will opens into another duct that is vas deferens. Vas deferens or ductus differentia. Vas deferens or ductus differentia. So the next one here is vas deferens. Commonly, some people are using vasa differentia, but remember this as vas deferens or ductus differentia. Ductus differentia. Vas differentia or ductus differentia. Vas deferens or ductus differentia here. See, this is only accessory duct. Remaining all accessory ducts are located in the scrotal sacs. But it is the only accessory duct which arises from the scrotal sacs. It is the scrotal sacs, you know. Inside the scrotal sacs only testes are located. So remaining all, if you observe here, radial testis is located inside the testis. Remaining vasa efferentia and epididymis are located inside the scrotal sac. Okay, but one thing you should remember here: the only accessory duct which ascends and enters into abdominal cavity, it is abdominal cavity. So the vas deferens ascends into abdominal cavity that crosses the urinary bladder here. Here there is urinary bladder. That crosses the urinary bladder, and also here ureters are there. So that passes from the scrotal cavity into abdominal cavity. That will enter into abdominal cavity. Okay, that will cross this dorsally. That will cross this ureters and also urinary bladder. And then what will happen here? Vas deferens. One thing you have to remember here in the vas deferens has the thickest walls. There are thickest walls present in the vas deferens. It is the only accessory duct which will ascend into the abdominal cavity. That also a very important thing you have to remember. Okay, right. Next, after completion of that, what is the exact length of this? It is about 30 to 35 centimeters in length. In male human being, the length of this vas deferens is 30 to 35 centimeters. 30 to 35 centimeters. The length of vas deferens is 30 to 35 centimeters. 30 to 35 centimeters. It is the only accessory duct which ascends into the abdominal cavity and that coil around the ureters and that will enters into the abdominal cavity. That also you have to remember here. And the duct of this, the ductus differentia or vas deferens, will fuses with the here. It is a accessory gland. It is seminal vesicle. What is this? Seminal vesicle. The seminal vesicle also have a duct. The seminal vesicle also have a duct. It is a seminal duct, or it is a duct of seminal vesicle, right? So it is vas deferens. There are a pair of vas deferens from each testis. All the structures which I am explaining here exactly present in another testis also. Okay, a pair of vas deferens are present. These are the only accessory ducts which ascends into the abdominal cavity, and finally this vas deferens will fuses with the duct of seminal vesicle and forms as a ejaculatory duct. Ejaculatory duct, observe here carefully. So it is a duct of seminal vesicle. It is vas deferens. So the vas deferens or ductus differentia fuses with the duct of seminal vesicle that leads to formation of a united duct, that is ejaculatory duct. Ejaculatory duct. Remember here, the duct of seminal vesicle fuses with vasa efferentia that leads to formation of ejaculatory duct here. So it is ejaculatory duct. Ejaculatory duct. Ejaculatory duct. So ejaculatory duct. How ejaculatory duct is formed here? Ejaculatory duct is formed by the fusion of vas deferens with the duct of seminal vesicle. It is a seminal vesicle. That is the seminal vesicle. So now inside the abdominal cavity, ventral to the urinary bladder, there is a fusion of this vas deferens with the duct of seminal vesicle that leads to formation of ejaculatory duct. How many ejaculatory ducts will form? There are two vas deferens and two seminal vesicles. There is chances for the formation of two ejaculatory ducts. So here one side one ejaculatory duct, another side also there is another ejaculatory duct. But these two ejaculatory ducts will united and form a common ejaculatory duct. These two will be united and form as a common ejaculatory duct, or ampulla of ejaculatory duct. Ampulla or common ejaculatory duct will form. Common ejaculatory duct or ampulla is formed. So that we have to remember about the ejaculatory ducts. Ejaculation means to release. Okay. So what is the role of ejaculatory duct here? Ejaculatory duct receives the spermatozoa from vas deferens and the seminal plasma or the fluid secreted in seminal vesicles both into urethra. Both will be releases into urethra by this duct, that is ejaculatory duct. So ejaculatory duct receives spermatozoa from vas deferens and it receives the secretions of seminal vesicles both together, mix and releases into the urethra. Okay, you should remember up to here. And one more thing, to stop the production of children, that is commonly we are using the word contraception. So there are some surgical operations in India. They are all well known. This is the family planning operations. Whenever a person will go to a family planning operation to avoid the production of children, then what will be the surgery? The doctors will give or which accessory that will be cut temporarily, it will be cut and tied is vas deferens. Observe here, it is the 30 to 35 centimeters in length. No? So here they will simply cut this vas deferens and tied here. They will cut and tied vas deferens. Then what will happen? If they will cut and tied this vas deferens, then there will be no chances for the transport of spermatozoa from testis to exterior. So spermatozoa will stop here only. There is no chances for transport of spermatozoa from the vas deferens to ejaculatory duct, urethra to the exterior, that is into female genital tract. Okay. So here, this surgical operation to avoid the production of children or a family planning to avoid the production of children is done to vas deferens, which is known as vasectomy. Vasectomy is a surgical removal of a small region of vas deferens, or it is cutting and tying of vas deferens. So vasectomy, family planning operation for male. That is a family planning operation for male. The family planning operation for male is vasectomy. So here vas deferens are cut and tied, or a small region of vas deferens is surgically removed and both ends will be tied. Okay. So this surgical operation is vasectomy. We will discuss more details of this in next chapter. That is in reproductive health. Just remember here, vas deferens will be cut and tied to avoid the producing of children, to avoid the insemination, is the releasing of spermatozoa along with the seminal plasma into the female genital tract. That we have to remember. In this process, both vas deferens should be cut and tied. If only one vas deferens will cut and tie, another vas deferens will send a spermatozoa to ejaculate tract, from there to urethra, from there insemination will be done along with the spermatozoa, that leads to pregnancy and production of children. Okay, so here this is the information you have to remember. And there are formation of two ejaculatory ducts. And how these ejaculatory ducts will form? How ejaculatory duct is formed? By the fusion of vas deferens with the duct of seminal vesicle, ejaculatory duct will form. There are formation of two ejaculatory ducts on either side, and both ejaculatory ducts will united and form a common ejaculatory duct or ejaculatory ampulla. This ejaculatory ampulla will open into. Is it clear? Ejaculatory ampulla will open into urethra. What is this? Urethra. Urethra. You know already. Urethra is a common passage for both urinary system, that is respiratory system, and reproductive system. Through this urethra only, both urine and semen will be transported. So there is a common passage for the transport of both the urine and the semen, that is urethra. Urethra is common passage for both the urine and semen. Because of that, the urethra in male reproductive system is known as urinogenital tract. The urethra in male human being is known as urinogenital tract. This, once again, I am repeating why the urethra in male human being is known as urinogenital tract. Because this is the common passage for both the urine and the semen. Because of that, it is known as urinogenital tract. Urinogenital tract. Now, what are the parts present in this? What are the parts present in the urethra of male human being? See, this urethra has three parts. The anterior part of urethra, which is surrounded by prostate gland on either side. It is actually prostate gland. This is the part of urethra that is surrounded, or that is located in between both the left and right parts of a prostate gland. It is actually a single prostate gland is there. So this is a part of urethra which is surrounded by that prostate gland. It is known as prostatic urethra. So the anterior part of urethra is prostatic urethra. Prostatic urethra. Prostatic urethra. So the part of urethra which is surrounded by prostate glands, or which is located in close association with the prostate gland, is known as prostatic urethra. Prostatic urethra. And the part of urethra which is mainly located in close association, or where there is a pair of bulbourethral glands or Cowper's glands are present, which is a very short region and it is covered by thin membrane. It is called as membranous urethra. The second is membranous urethra. So the first one is prostatic urethra. The anterior most part is prostatic urethra. The second one is the middle, that is the membranous urethra. And the third one is the longest part in the urethra, That is the penile urethra, which is located inside the penis. You can observe here, from here, this is penis. Inside the penis, so it is the penis inside this. So also like that. So the part of urethra which runs along the length of penis is penile urethra. It is penile urethra. Penile urethra. Okay. So urethra is common passage for the transport of both semen and urine. So it is known as urinogenital tract in male human being, but in female, urethra serves for the transport of only urine, not for any reproductive process. Because of that, the female reproductive tract cannot consider as a urinogenital tract, but male has an urinogenital tract because of this urethra. Okay, so urethra of male human being has three parts. The anterior most part of urethra, which is in close association with the prostate gland, or it on either side of this part of urethra, prostate gland is located. So that is prostatic urethra. Prostatic urethra, and a thin and very short, which is covered by a thin membrane, and it is on either side of this part there is a pair of bulbourethral or Cowper's glands are present. Of penis is penile urethra. Urethra. It is the longest part of urethra. The longest part of urethra. Right. Now, one more thing you should remember: this urethra will opens out at the terminal part of urethra. There is a opening, that is urethral meatus. Urethral meatus. Urethral meatus or urethral orifice. Urethral meatus or urethral orifice. The external opening of urethra is known as urethral meatus. Urethral meatus or urethral orifice. Urethral meatus or urethral orifice or male genital pore. It is known as male genital pore. Okay, once again, urethra is a common passage for the transport of both urine and semen, so it is known as urinogenital tract in male reproductive system. And the urethra is divided into three parts: prostatic urethra, membranous urethra, and penile urethra. Prostatic urethra is the anterior most part, which is surrounded by prostate gland. Membranous urethra is the shortest part of urethra, which is the shortest part of urethra. That is a membranous urethra. It is covered by a thin membrane, and on either side of this, a pair of Cowper's or bulbourethral glands are present. And the longest part of urethra is the penile urethra, which travel along the length of penis. At last of urethra, there is an external opening, which is known as urethral meatus or urethral orifice, and it is also known as male genital pore. Male genital pore. So that we have to remember. Here, all the accessory ducts are completed. What are the accessory ducts in male reproductive system? We discussed it here once again. Rete testis, vasa efferentia or ductus efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens or ductus differentia, ejaculatory duct and urethra are the accessory ducts. Then what is the role of this accessory ducts here? Observe carefully. Actually, the spermatozoa are produced in the seminiferous tubules or tubules of testes that have to release out or that have to ejaculate into female genital tract. For that, it requires a passage. So all these accessory ducts will form a passage. Accessory ducts will form a passage, a way, a path for the transport of spermatozoa from seminiferous tubules. Spermatozoa will be received by the rete testis. It will transport spermatozoa to vasa efferentia. Vasa efferentia transports spermatozoa to epididymis. In epididymis, spermatozoa can be stored up to around 1 month of time, during which the immotile spermatozoa will become motile by the action of Caspar proteins. And after that, from this epididymis, the spermatozoa will be received by vas deferens. Vas deferens ascends into the abdominal cavity, and that will fuses with the duct of seminal vesicle that leads to formation of an ejaculatory duct. This ejaculatory duct receives both the secretions of seminal vesicles and also spermatozoa from the vas deferens, and ejaculatory duct will opens into urethra. Ejaculatory duct will opens into urethra, and urethra receives spermatozoa along with the secretions of accessory glands. So in the semen, there is a fluid part and also liquid part. Sorry, there is a fluid part and a solid part. The solid part is spermatozoa. The fluid or liquid part is seminal plasma that is secreted by accessory glands like seminal vesicles, prostate glands, and Cowper's glands. Okay, so that we have to remember. Is it clear? Urinary bladder also opens into urethra, and also ejaculatory ducts will open into urethra along with the other accessory glands. So it helps in the transport of both the semen and urine. So it is a common passage for both the excretory system and also reproductive system. So it is a urinogenital tract. Remember up to this. And one more thing, in human being, the majority of the ejaculatory ducts, especially from vasa efferentia to ejaculatory ducts, vasa efferentia to ejaculatory duct, all are developed from Wolffian ducts. Wolffian ducts. Wolffian ducts are ducts of mesonephrons during embryonic developmental stages. At initial stage, there is no development of metanephric kidneys in human embryos. Human embryos doesn't possess metanephric kidneys at initial stage of embryonic development. At that time, there are mesonephrons present. Mesonephrons are present. This mesonephrons has two types of ducts, Wolffian ducts and Mullerian ducts. But after 5th month of embryonic development, there is formation of metanephric kidneys completely. Metanephric kidneys will completely form. Then what is the fate of these ducts that are present as a mesonephrons? Wolffian duct and a Mullerian duct. The Wolffian ducts in male reproductive system will modify into important accessory ducts like vasa efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens, and ejaculatory duct. Is it clear? They may ask. The majority of the accessory ducts in male reproductive system are developed by Wolffian duct of mesonephrons. Wolffian duct of mesonephrons. Very important thing. Remember, Wolffian duct and Mullerian duct are the two ducts of mesonephron which act as a excretory organ in early embryonic developmental stages. But after formation of metanephric kidneys, what will happen here? This Wolffian ducts will be developed as a vasa efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens, and ejaculatory duct in male human being. Not complete part of ejaculatory duct. Upper portion, the upper part of ejaculatory duct mainly formed by this. And after that, Mullerian duct is another duct. That Mullerian duct will be degenerated in male human being, but in female reproductive system, Wolffian duct will be degenerated. Mullerian duct will develop into accessory duct in female reproductive system. We'll discuss about Wolffian and Mullerian duct in detail after completion of all this. Okay, so take 5 minutes break. After we will start accessory glands. After that we will start accessory glands. Okay, welcome back. After completion of accessory ducts that are secondary sex organs in male reproductive system, then we have to discuss about accessory glands. Accessory glands. What is the role of accessory ducts in reproductive system? What is the role of this accessory ducts? It is completed now. So, what is the role of this accessory duct means? That play an important role in the transport of spermatozoa, in the storage of spermatozoa. For the transport and storage of spermatozoa, that accessory ducts are essential, and also for the nourishment of spermatozoa also they play a role. While after entering into the epididymis, that will store there up to 1 month. Now during that time, it will be nourished by secretions of epididymis that we have to remember. After completion of this accessory ducts, next is accessory glands. Accessory glands. What are the accessory glands that are associated with the human reproductive system in male? Already I gave you, there are 3 types of accessory glands present. One is a pair of seminal vesicles, pair of seminal vesicles, a pair of seminal vesicles, a pair of Cowper's glands or bulbourethral glands, and one unpaired, that is a single prostate gland. A single prostate gland and a pair of bulbourethral glands or Cowper's glands. Bulbourethral glands or Cowper's glands. That are the 3 types of accessory glands. So there are 3 types. 2 paired and 1 unpaired glands are there. Total number of accessory glands in male reproductive system are 5. Total number is 5. Total types are 3. 2 paired and 1 unpaired gland is there. Okay. Now, what is the role of these accessory glands in reproductive system? See, accessory gland secretes some fluids or secretions which are essential for nourishment of gametes or nourishment of spermatozoa in male human being. Whenever that are inside testes, there is nerve cells or Sertoli cells to nourish. If that are inside epididymis itself nourish that. If that will be released into the female genital tract, that have to survive in the female genital tract, so that have to get nourishment. Means for the production of energy that required nourishment. So that nourishment will be provided by the secretions of these accessory glands. And also, these are essential for clotting and declotting of semen. Clotting and declotting of semen. And also, this play an important role in the cleaning of urethra or removal of urinary substances which are present in the urethra. And also, these fluids act as a lubricants that reduces the friction at the time of transporting of spermatozoa. And one more very important thing, the secretions of these glands will maintain a required pH for the survival of spermatozoa inside the female genital tract. So that are the main requirements or main functions of accessory glands. So accessory gland secretes some fluids. These fluids will mix along with the spermatozoa, that is called as semen. So semen has two parts now, solid part and liquid part. The solid part is spermatozoa, which is produced by the seminiferous tubules of the testes. What about the liquid part? The liquid part is seminal plasma. Seminal plasma. This seminal plasma is secreted by accessory glands. Accessory glands. How many accessory glands are there? Total 5 accessory glands. A pair of seminal vesicle, a single prostate gland, and a pair of bulbourethral or Cowper's glands are present. This gland secretes some secretions which are essential for the nourishment of spermatozoa, which are essential for the clotting and declotting of semen, and which are essential for lubrication, which are essential for the maintenance of required pH in the female genital tract. You all know that usually, normally in female genital tract, it is actually acidic medium. Acidic medium. The secretions of vagina are acidic in nature. That will always maintain acidic pH. In acidic medium, no living cells can survive. Spermatozoa are living cells that cannot able to survive in the acidic medium of a female genital tract, that is vagina. Then what will happen? This majority of the secretions are alkaline in nature. Female reproductive tract is acidic in nature. Vagina is acidic in nature. These are alkaline in nature. Whenever this will release into the female genital tract, the acidic medium will be neutralized. Then only the spermatozoa will be successfully survive and transport towards ovum and fertilizes the ovum. Understood? So for the maintenance of that pH also, these are essential. Now we will discuss about these 3 type of glands in detail. Okay, already in diagram, you are all noticed that where these are exactly located. Inside the abdominal cavity, one pair of seminal vesicles are there. This is one, and this is another. So these are located inside the abdominal cavity. One pair of seminal vesicles are present, and on either side of urethra, it is urethra. On either side, actually, here a single at the base of urinary bladder. At the base of urinary bladder, there is prostate gland. Just below this, on either side of urethra, small bulb-like glands are there. On either side of urethra, small bulb-like glands are present. So these are named as bulbourethral glands. Small bulb-like glands located on either side of urethra or bulbourethral glands. Okay. So these are the 3 type of glands. A pair of seminal vesicles, one prostate gland. It is not coma. It is located on either sides. No, actually it is located on dorsal side. Okay. So don't confuse. It is a single gland. Wait. It is a single one. Like this dorsally. It is a single gland, and here a pair of bulb-like glands are there, that are Cowper's glands or bulbourethral glands are there. Now we have to discuss about what are the secretions or what are the fluids secreted by these glands. First, we will discuss about the seminal vesicles. See, majority of the seminal plasma. What is seminal plasma? The semen contain liquid part or fluid part is known as seminal plasma. Seminal plasma is secreted by accessory glands. And the solid part in the semen is spermatozoa. See just once. What is semen? Semen is nothing but spermatozoa. Zoa plus seminal plasma. Spermatozoa plus seminal plasma equals to semen. So here both the solid part and fluid part, or solid part and liquid part is there. The solid part is spermatozoa. These spermatozoa are produced by the seminiferous tubules of the testes. What about seminal plasma? Seminal plasma is secreted by the accessory glands that are seminal vesicles, prostate gland, and bulbourethral glands. So now spermatozoa and seminal plasma together form semen. During ejaculation, during copulation, this semen will be released into the female genital tract. Not only spermatozoa, along with spermatozoa, which will release into female genital tract, seminal plasma. If without seminal plasma, if only spermatozoa releases into female genital tract, what will happen? If only spermatozoa will release into female genital tract without seminal plasma, what will happen? There is no chances for survival of this spermatozoa in the acidic pH in the female genital tract, so that will completely degenerate. That will completely die. And there is no chances for nourishment of them. Without nourishment, how could that survive outside the male body? So there is no chances for that. So semen is spermatozoa plus seminal plasma. Testes produces spermatozoa. Associated glands secrete seminal plasma. For the transport of all this and storage of all this, there is accessory ducts. Right. First, we will see majority of the seminal plasma. Majority of the seminal plasma is secreted by seminal vesicles. 60 to 70% of seminal plasma is secreted by seminal vesicles. So, majority of the seminal plasma is secreted by seminal vesicles. About 60 to 70% of seminal plasma is secreted by these seminal vesicles. These are actually a pair of sac-like glands that are located inside the abdominal cavity, and this secretes majority of the seminal plasma. In this seminal plasma secreted by seminal vesicles, what are the main components present and what are their role? Actually, this seminal plasma which is secreted by seminal vesicle is alkaline. It is slightly alkaline in nature. The pH of this is 7.2 to 7.3. So, the seminal vesicle secretes majority of the seminal plasma. 60 to 70% of seminal plasma is secreted by seminal vesicles, and it is slightly alkaline in nature. The pH is 7.2 to 7.3. Okay. And what are the various components that present in these secretions of seminal vesicles? That is also very important. In this, fibrinogen, which are present here, is fibrinogen, fructose, citrate, inositol, prostaglandins are present. prostaglandins are present. Once again, listen. Seminal vesicles are a pair of sac-like glands that are located inside the abdominal cavity, dorsal to the urinary bladder. Inside the abdominal cavity, dorsal to the urinary bladder. This seminal vesicle secretes majority of the seminal plasma. 60 to 70% of seminal plasma is secreted by seminal vesicles. This fluid, which is secreted by seminal vesicle, is slightly alkaline in nature. So the pH is 7.2 to 7.3. The pH is 7.2 to 7.3. And what are the various elements, various components present in this seminal plasma? It contains hydrogen, fructose, citrate, inositol, and prostaglandins. Citrate and inositol, citrate, inositol, prostaglandins are present here. We have to remember. Okay. So now, first of all, fructose. In human body, fructose is present only in the secretion of seminal vesicles. It is present in the seminal plasma because it is the element, it is the structure present only in the secretions of seminal vesicles. Understood? So fructose is present only in any other part of human body, either male or female. There is no chances for the presence of fructose except in the secretion of seminal vesicles. The secretion of seminal vesicles contain fructose. What is the use of this fructose that we have? See, fructose is the only energy source or only nutritional source for the spermatozoa outside the body. Whenever spermatozoa will be released in the female genital tract, if the spermatozoa will be released into the female genital tract, what will happen? How that will get nourishment? Female reproductive system or female body cannot supply any nourishment to the spermatozoa. Then how they will get their energy and how the nutrition will be supplied here? So that is in the form of fructose. Fructose is the only source of energy to the spermatozoa outside the body of a male human being. And this fructose is present only in the secretion of seminal vesicles. Fructose is not present in the body of female human being. In any part of female body, in any secretion of female body, there is no fructose. Whenever there is insemination, that is releasing of semen into female genital tract, during copulation, male will releases semen into female genital tract or female reproductive tract. Whenever male will releases semen into female genital tract, then only we can find the fructose in female genital tract. Otherwise, there is no chances for presence of fructose in the female body. Female body doesn't possess fructose. There is no chances. In male body also, this fructose is present only in the semen. So, presence of fructose in the female genital tract is an indication of insemination. An indication of insemination. See, whenever there is any sexual assault, or commonly we are using the term rape, in that conditions, whether there is any sexual assault done or not, to identify primarily, first of all, they will check the presence of fructose in the female genital tract. If there is insemination, they can notice, they can find the fructose in the female genital tract, then they confirm that a sexual assault was done. Okay, later after that they will go for a DNA test to identify the various victims. Okay, so that we have to remember. So fructose is present only in the secretion of seminal vesicles. Whenever there is ejaculation of spermatozoa or not insemination of spermatozoa, fructose is the only source of energy. Fructose is the only source of energy for the spermatozoa. This fructose is not present in the female body or any secretions of female body. So presence of fructose in female reproductive tract or female body is an indication of insemination. Indication of insemination that we have to keep in our mind, which is the only source of energy. Which is the only source of energy for the spermatozoa outside the body of male, that is fructose. Fructose is the only source of energy for the spermatozoa outside the body of male. Okay, that's clear. Then fibrinogen. Already, I think you studied this fibrinogen in your first PU syllabus. In the mechanism of clotting of blood, I gave you 13 clotting factors. In that, fibrinogen is one of the very important. Fibrinogen, prothrombin, thromboplastin, calcium ions. I told you that 4 play an important role, a major role, remaining all supporting role. Okay, so in that fibrinogen means it is mainly for the clotting purpose. It is mainly useful for the clotting purpose. Which should be clot here? What should be clot here? There, blood clotting or in the process of blood clotting, fibrinogen play an important role. What about in the semen? So semen also have to be clot before releasing out. For example, see, these are spermatozoa. If all the spermatozoa are free, then this spermatozoa may, after leaving the epididymis, these are motile now. So if these are freely leave like this, then what will happen? That will move towards all the direction unnecessarily. That will causes for the loss of energy. That causes for loss of energy. So without requirement, the spermatozoa will move towards different directions. Then that leads to loss of energy. So to conserve the energy, there is a clotting process of, observe here, a clotting of semen will take place. Now, the spermatozoa, if you observe here, the mesh-like structure is there, no. So the spermatozoa is inside this mesh-like structure only. So the unwanted movements, movement of spermatozoa will be prevented. Unwanted movement of spermatozoa will be prevented. So it is a mechanism required for the conservation of energy for the spermatozoa. So semen should be clot to avoid the unwanted movements of spermatozoa, which leads to loss of energy. So to conserve the energy, there is clotting of semen is required. Semen should be clot. Okay. So very important one, ma. Why the semen should be clot during ejaculation or during insemination? If there is no clotting of semen, spermatozoa will start unwanted movements that leads to loss of energy. So to conserve the energy, semen will be clotted. For this, which is required, fibrinogen is required. Fibrinogen is very, very essential for this process. Okay, fibrinogen is very, very essential for this process. Understood? Next, citrate, inositol, prostaglandins. These are mainly to enhance the receiving ability of spermatozoa by female reproductive tract, especially prostaglandin. These are a type of hormones, prostaglandins. Whenever this prostaglandins will be released into the female genital tract, that will causes for reverse peristalsis in the female genital tract. So that will causes for reverse peristalsis. Peristalsis in the genital tract are usually from inside to outside direction. It will take place inside to outside the direction to send all elements or all gametes or any other secretions. Usually peristalsis takes place from inward to outward direction, but prostaglandin stimulates reverse peristalsis, means outward to inward, outside to inside peristaltic movements. Then what will happen? Whenever spermatozoa will enter into the immediately, because of this inward peristalsis, wave-like movements, without the requirement of energy, wave-like movements takes place. that will causes the transport of materials. So here, prostaglandins stimulates reverse peristalsis in the female genital tract, especially in the cervix of the female reproductive system, that leads to enhancing the receiving capacity of spermatozoa by female reproductive tract, which facilitates the easy reaching of spermatozoa to the ovum. Okay, so that are the elements present in the seminal vesicles. Once again, all of you listen. Seminal vesicles are a pair of accessory glands. These are the sac-like glands that are located. These are the sac-like glands that are located in the abdominal cavity above dorsal to the urinary bladder. And majority of the seminal plasma is secreted by these seminal vesicles. 60 to 70% of seminal plasma is secreted by seminal vesicles, and it is slightly alkaline in nature. The pH is 7.2 to 7.3. And what are the various components present here? It has the fibrinogen, fructose, citrate, inositol, and prostaglandins. All are useful mainly for the nourishment and also clotting process and also enhancing of receiving capacity of spermatozoa by female reproductive tract. So that you have to remember here. Next, after this, prostate glands. Is it clear? Seminal vesicles. And here also one more thing. What is the pH? 7.2 to 7.3. That means alkaline pH. What is the pH in the female reproductive tract, especially in the vagina? It is acidic in nature. It is acidic in nature. Whenever this alkaline seminal secretion, the secretions of seminal vesicles, then what will happen? This alkaline will enter into the acidic medium in the vagina of female reproductive tract. That will utilizes the acidic medium. Then only the spermatozoa will survive. Is it clear about seminal vesicles? Okay, right. After completion of this seminal vesicles, next. Prostate gland. Prostate gland. It is the largest associated gland. Largest associated gland. It is unpaired gland. Only one is there. It is actually unpaired gland. Only one is there. Unpaired gland. And after that, it is located at the base of urinary bladder. There is a location. It is located at the base of urinary bladder. It is the largest accessory gland. It is an unpaired gland. And what is the role of this gland in the secretion of seminal plasma? It secretes 20 to 30% of seminal plasma. 20 to 30% of seminal plasma is secreted by this. It secretes 20 to 30% of seminal plasma. That you have to remember. And what are the various components present in this? See, in this, there is citrate or citric acid is present, calcium is present, phosphate is present, phosphate is also present, and one more very important component here is profibrinolysin. Profibrinolysin also present. Profibrinolysin. Okay. So observe here. Prostate is the largest gland, largest associated accessory gland that associated with male reproductive system. It is unpaired gland. It is located at the base of urinary bladder, and it secretes 20 to 30% of seminal plasma. In this seminal plasma secreted by prostate gland contains citrate, calcium, phosphate, and profibrinolysin. So now, what is the role of this? See, calcium also very essential for clotting process. Calcium and phosphate, actually calcium really involved in the clotting process. Citrate, already I told you, enhances the receiving capacities along with the prostaglandins. And profibrinolysis. Profibrinolysis. See, if there is a word pro in front of any enzyme or any biochemical compound, what it indicates? Pro means inactive. You are all know that. Prorenin. Prorenin is inactive form. Renin is active form. Okay. If there is gen or pro, that is actually inactive form. So it is actually inactive form. Profibrinolysin. But whenever the semen will be released into the female genital tract, this profibrinolysin will be activated and converted into fibrinolysin form. Profibrinolysin is actually inactive form, but whenever semen will be released into the female genital tract, this profibrinolysin will be activated and modifies into fibrinolysin. What is the use of this fibrinolysin? Already I told you, semen is in the form of clot. Whenever insemination will be done, semen will release in the form of a clot. A clotted semen is there. If the semen is in the form of clot in the female genital tract, then how could this spermatozoa will start its motility or its movement towards the ovum? If it is in the form of clot, even after releasing the female genital tract, how could it will reach the ovum that is present in the parasite? There should be breakdown, and all the spermatozoa will become free. It should be breakdown, and spermatozoa should be free. Then only they will move vigorously towards the ovum, and that will reach the ovum. And once sperm reaches the ovum, fertilization will be done. Otherwise, there is no chances. Okay, so the profibrinolysin, after converting into fibrinolysin, what is the main role of it is declotting. It can break down the clot of semen and allow the free movement of spermatozoa inside the female genital tract. Okay, see, it is a clot. Now, declotting. Breakdown of all this insoluble fibrin fibers will be done by profibrinolysin. Before, clotting was done by the fibrinogen and calcium ions. Now, whenever the semen will be released in the female genital tract, if it is in the form of clot, the spermatozoa cannot be able to move and reach the ovum. Then what will happen? There is no chances for any fertilization. To avoid that, whenever insemination will be done, immediately declotting process is required. That is the breakdown of this insoluble fibrin fibers or meshwork. Then only the sperm will move freely towards the ovum. So declotting is the function of profibrinolysin, which is the only energy source for the sperm outside the male body. Fructose, you all know that. Okay, so which accessory glands are responsible for the nourishment of spermatozoa outside the body of male human being? Which are the associated glands that are responsible for nourishment of spermatozoa outside the body of male human being? Seminal vesicles. Which are the associated glands responsible for the free motility or free movement of spermatozoa inside the female genital tract? That is prostate gland, because of profibrinolysin. Okay, is it clear? Right. After completion of that, see, already I gave you prostatic urethra. Okay, prostate gland surrounds the prostatic urethra. Okay, that's clear. After completion of that, is it clear? Second type of accessory gland, that is a prostate gland, over. And after completion of this, bulbourethral glands are Cowper's glands. Bulbourethral glands are Cowper's glands. The name itself suggests the location of these glands and the shape of these glands. These are small bulb-like glands located on either side of membranous urethra. These are the small, apaired, bulb-like glands located on either side of membranous urethra. That are located on either side of membranous urethra. And these glands will secrete 10 to 20%, very less seminal plasma is secreted by this. 10 to 20% of seminal plasma is secreted by bulbourethral glands. And these secretions are actually milky secretions. Means these are whitish or milky secretions. The secretions are actually milky secretions. And one more important thing here, what is the pH of this? It is also slightly alkaline pH, 7.2 to 7.3 pH is there. 7.2 to 7.3. Okay, understood? So here a pair of, and these secretes 10 to 20%, which is a milky fluid, and the pH is 7.2 to 7.3. So these are also slightly alkaline in nature. What is the main function of this secretions of bulbourethral glands? See, the secretions of bulbourethral glands act as a lubricants. So the main function of this is lubrication. You all know that whenever the spermatozoa will transport along the length of urethra, to reduce the friction in the urethra and also in the female genital tract when it will release the female genital tract, which play an important role, that is the bulbourethral glands, or the secretions of bulbourethral glands act as a lubricants that reduces the friction and allow easy passage of spermatozoa through urethra and also in the female genital tract. So that is one of very important function of this lubrication. So bulbourethral gland secretions possess lubricant like oily-like substances that reduces the friction during the transport of spermatozoa through urethra and also in female genital tract. That is one important function. And another important function, it acts as a flushing agent. What is this flushing agent? Means just like a detergent or just like a removing substance. So whenever, observe carefully. So here, whenever there is a transport of semen, already I told you, urethra is a common passage for both urine and semen. It is a common passage for both urine and semen. So if urination will be done, that is excretion will be done, there may be chances for the remaining of urinary substances in the urethra. It is a common passage for urine and semen now. If there is any urinary substances remain in the urethra, that will be removed by the secretions of bulbourethral glands. It clears the urethra. It removes the urinary substances which remain in the urethra. So, which will cleanse the urethra for releasing of semen. Because of that, there is no chances for mixing of urine and semen. Whenever there is insemination, ejaculation, at the time urination will temporarily stop. But if there is any urinary substances remain in the urethra, that will be removed out, or that will be flushed out, or that will be cleaned by the secretions of bulbourethral gland. Because of that only, before releasing the complete semen, the secretions of bulbourethral glands will release first. So before releasing the semen, there is releasing of a fluid which is commonly known as precum. Precum. The secretions of bulbourethral glands will release this before releasing of semen. which is known as precum. Why there is releasing of precum? To remove urinary substances if that are present in the urethra. So to remove that, there is precum. Okay. So that are the two important functions. What are the two important functions of secretions of bulbourethral glands? It acts as a lubricant and also it acts as a flushing agent. It reduces the friction and allows free transport or movement of spermatozoa. And it cleans the urethra or it removes urinary substances which are present in the urethra. Before releasing semen only, there is releasing of secretion of bulbourethral glands which is known as precum. Why there is releasing of precum? To remove urinary substances which are present, that avoid the mixing of urinary substances with the semen. Okay, so that is about all accessory glands. Already I told you this secretions of accessory glands are mainly alkaline in nature. Whenever these alkaline substances releases into the female genital tract, the acidic vagina or acidic female genital tract will be neutralized. Then only spermatozoa will successfully survive in the reproductive tract of female. Otherwise, there is no chances for survival of this spermatozoa in the acidic medium of vagina. Okay, so that is about the accessory sex organs or secondary sex organs in male reproductive system. Once again, we just recall what we discussed in this class. In this class, we discussed about the secondary sex organs or accessory sex organs associated with male reproductive system of human being. In that, first we discussed about accessory ducts. The accessory ducts are essential for the transport and storage of spermatozoa and also that involve in the nourishment of spermatozoa. These accessory ducts cannot play any role in the production of gametes. These are accessory means additional or associated structures. See, what are the accessory ducts in male reproductive system? Rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens, ejaculatory duct, and urethra. I gave you information about all that. This is the longest accessory duct, that is epididymis, and we can notice vasa efferentia is the shortest one. And what are the functions of that? Where that are located, and all I gave you. And which is the only accessory duct that ascends into the abdominal cavity, that is vas deferens or ductus differentia. See, this majority of the accessory ducts in male reproductive system are mainly developed by Wolffian ducts, that are developed by Wolffian ducts, that we have to remember. And after that, we discussed about the accessory glands. There are three types of accessory glands. Two paid and one unpaid accessory glands are associated with male reproductive system. A pair of seminal vesicles, a pair of bulbourethral glands or Cowper's glands, and one unpaid gland, that is the prostate glands, are present. What is the role of these glands in the reproductive system? This gland secretes various fluids. That fluids are essential. That fluids are essential for the nourishment of spermatozoa outside the body of the male human being, and that are essential for the maintenance of a required pH in the female genital tract, that are essential for the lubrication, that are essential for the cleaning of urethra, and also that are essential for the clotting and declotting, and also that play an important role to enhance the receiving capacity of spermatozoa by female reproductive tract. So that are the concepts we discussed in this class. In next class, we will discuss about the external genitalia. Already I told you what are the external genitalia present in male reproductive system. That is a scrotum and penis. That we will discuss in next class. After completion of that, we will discuss hormonal regulation of male reproductive system. What are the various hormones and what are the roles of that hormones in coordination and regulation of various processes in the male reproductive system. After that, we will discuss common diseases of male reproductive system. Actually, after completion of this, I will give you the semen. Already I told you what is the semen. Semen is a mixture of solid and a fluid part, that is spermatozoa and seminal plasma. what is the composition of semen, what is the pH of semen, what is the quantity of semen, and all we will discuss. If there is any defective development of spermatozoa, that also I will give you. And after completion of that, we will discuss the common diseases that affects the male reproductive system. Okay. By tomorrow, we will try to complete male reproductive system. And after completion of that, we will start female reproductive system. Thank you.